Coming up next on Locked On Devils, the win streak is over at 8 games for the Diablos. If only that was the most concerning number 8 of last night's affair. Roll the intro.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Devils your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Zach Berman. Once again, thank you for listening or watching wherever you may be. I am in the Hotel California. Such a lovely place. Yeah, I know. Literally and figuratively, you can check out anytime you like, but you may never leave. I am in Santa Cruz, just outside the San Francisco Bay Area, about 30 minutes southwest of San Jose, awaiting the Devils, who will be coming to San Jose to take on the Sharks in the Shark Tank tomorrow night. I will be covering that for New Jersey Hockey Now. I'll also be recording from the SAP Center post-game. But the Devils will be in San Jose looking to start a new win streak. Now, why is that? Well, last night, the New Jersey Devils win streak ended at Ball Arena in Denver to the tune of an 8-4 loss to the Colorado Avalanche. I know. It was a fun heater. They went almost the entire month of October without losing a game. And you have to lament a couple things, first and foremost. Don LaGreca's first loss as play-by-play voice of the New Jersey Devils. I actually thought he called his best game last night. I love the energy. He's so good at just what he does, and he has been such a joy to have on broadcast every night. But yes, first loss for him. Of course, the opening loss was on ESPN Plus. And yeah, the win streak is over. There's a lot to discuss from last night's game. We'll run through all of it. We will talk about Jacob Markstrom's terrible performance, as well as Sheldon Keefe's decision to put him in last night's game and keep him in last night's game. I'm going to talk about how much I miss Brett Pesce and how tough it might be for this team to overcome not having him for the next few weeks. However, there are some positives to break down, and there has been a lot of doom and gloom on, Devils Twitter, subreddit. I snoop around, you figure out pulse of the fan base. As a fan myself, yes, there is definitely some cause for concern when you give up 8 goals in a game to a very good Colorado team. But the sky is not falling in game 10 when you are 8-2. Now, if I've texted some of my friends this, I will hit the panic button if they go winless in the rest of the in the rest of the road trip. If they do not leave California with a win, then I will hit the panic button. Or, of course, if anybody significantly gets hurt, yeah, that's always a cause for concern. Should it happen, knock on wood. Yeah, I have a physical piece of wood to knock on now. Hopefully none of that happens. But I am not hitting the panic button, even if they lose in San Jose tomorrow night, which I don't think is going to happen. But I had a feeling that they were going to lose this game. It's just not easy to sweep Colorado in a season series. I'm thankful we're done with them, because I have no desire to see anybody from the Avalanche play the Devils ever again. Well, maybe the only scenario the Devils could see the Avalanche again is if they make the Stanley Cup final, and that would be awesome. So I'm thankful we are done with the Avalanche in the regular season. But to come into a game after a lengthy road trip, or to start a lengthy road trip after a long flight without Brett Pesce, who is, I got to be honest, after like Jack, Nico, and Bratt might be the most important player for the New Jersey Devils. That is a crucial loss. And I think a lot of people underestimated how crucial of a loss it is to not have somebody who is going to be that level of a shot blocker, that level of a penalty killer. He covers up the mistakes of others. And it unfortunately exposes a lot of miscues from the rest of the defensive group, which is concerning. Seamus Casey was not great last night. I'm a little bit worried, but then again, what Colorado did to the Devils last night, there are not many teams in the league that are going to be as difficult to face without Colorado or without Brett Pesce than Colorado is. He leads the league, Brett Pesce, led the league before he went down with an upper body injury against Colorado in Newark on Sunday. In shot blocks over 60 minutes was 17.73, being his average per game. Yeah, that's really not someone who was very easy to replace. So Seamus Casey comes in, struggled last night, made a couple rookie mistakes, and the defense as a whole. Actually, I like Shimon Nemec's game a lot, and he has been a very frequent point of scrutiny for the Devils so far among their fans, especially because the guy that Utah drafted after him, Logan Cooley, has been off to a crazy heater, just signed an $8 million extension. That is going to be a steal for the Mammoth. What a contract. What a piece of business there by the Mammoth, who, by the way, Mammoth also came in on a heater. Both Utah and New Jersey lost their respective win streaks last night during the NHL's Frozen Frenzy event. Of note, both Pittsburgh and Carolina lost yesterday, so the Devils did not lose too much ground in the standings. Pittsburgh got a point, losing in Philadelphia in a shootout, so Devils and Penguins tied for first in the Metro at 16. Devils still tied for first overall in the entire league with Utah, Colorado, and how about La Canadienne de Montreal? Yeah, who saw that coming? 8-3-0 for the Habs. They have been en fuego. But Jacob Markstrom has been not great to start the year, and that was before he got hurt in Game 3 of the year against Columbus. Remember, Jake Allen started that game against the Jackets, left with cramps. Jacob Markstrom came in after not being great in Carolina, game the Devils lost, and then not being great in Tampa Bay, a game that the Devils won, but because of Markstrom was a lot closer than it needed to be. So since that point in time, Jake Allen had, I don't want to say carried because the team has been playing very well, but had carried the bulk of the goaltending. He was 5-0. And then Jacob Markstrom starts last night against a pissed-off Avalanche team, one of the best high-end offensive attacks in the National Hockey League, and allows 8 goals. He allowed 8 goals to snap the Devils' 8-game win streak, was not only beaten 8 times, he was also beaten 5 times in addition by pucks that ended up off the iron. Jacob Markstrom gave up 8 goals on 42 shots. That's not good enough. That's not good enough at all. And I got to be honest. Like I said yesterday on the pod, I'm thinking long and hard if I'm Tom Fitzgerald about extending Jacob Markstrom long term. I think that thought went from, well, maybe we shouldn't extend him long term to, can we survive the season with him playing like this? He has an .830 save percentage. He's allowing 5.1 goals per game. That's good for 49th among all qualifying that is good for 49th among all qualifying goaltenders. Those are John Gillies numbers. That is unacceptable from Jacob Markstrom. He has to be better. I think he knows he has to be better. And there has been just a lot of scrutiny on why Sheldon Keefe picked this game in particular against Colorado to throw Jacob Markstrom to the Wolves. That I get. Now, at the same time, I was arguing this on Twitter last night, watching the game stretched out over 3 economy seats on a cross-country flight. I can't believe I got to watch the entire game. What a game to watch on your phone on a plane. But Colorado, without Brett Pesce, is just not an easy assignment in general. And you're looking at a situation where, let's say, I hate to use the term scheduled loss, but this was as close to a scheduled loss as you will have for the Devils outside of a game in Carolina. I would not have wanted to use Jake Allen in this game because then, let's say you want to get Markstrom going on Thursday. San Jose had 41 shots on goal. And if you're coming into San Jose already on a loss and then Jacob Markstrom gives you a stinker and hands the Sharks a game, all of a sudden the vibes are cooked. I think Sheldon Keefe is playing a little bit of a 4D chess here. I almost want to compare it to a manager in baseball not wanting to use too much of his bullpen early on in the season. I wholeheartedly agreed with putting Jacob Markstrom in that game. I wholeheartedly agreed with keeping him in the game. It's like, yeah, once again, not to give the baseball analogy, but making a pitcher who is coming in to start and does not have a good outing, just kind of making him wear it because you don't want to waste the bullpen. I think you have to keep Markstrom in that game. I don't know when they start him next, probably in one half of the back-to-back in Southern California. I think you have to go Jake Allen tomorrow, and I think they will. But I almost question whether or not you send him down to Utica for a conditioning stint, because we know what Jacob Markstrom is capable of at his best. And there's a lot of, he stinks, he's washed. And I'm not saying that isn't the case. It could be the case. We know that goalies are just voodoo in general. But the odds of him just being cooked, like Andre Palat levels of cooked, I would say are lower than the average fan is necessarily thinking right now. So it might be beneficial to send him down to Utica for a conditioning stint if the Devils can do that. I don't necessarily know what they can and cannot do there. Look, Markey's also a veteran. He has to be okay with it. But I think last night better put a kibosh on Markey's camp asking for a 5x5 contract for 8 goals a game. That is like possibly the worst investment of money you can make in the National Hockey League right now. Like, please, Tom Fitzgerald, do not do that. I think whether you like Fitz or you don't like Fitz, or whether you believe in him or not, I think even Tom Fitzgerald is smart enough to just be like, oh, yeah, let's not do that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about how exactly the game went down, some concerning numbers, and also some positive notes to take out of last night's 8-4 loss in Colorado for the New Jersey Devils. You are tuned into Locked On Devils. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I know a lot of Devils fans have made this California trip. If you want cheap and amazing tickets for tomorrow's game in San Jose or Saturday's game in LA, Sunday's game in Anaheim, just go to Game Time. I love that what you see is what you pay. No hidden fees at checkout. I recently used Game Time to grab seats for last Wednesday's game between the Devils and the Minnesota Wild, and it couldn't have been simpler. I had great seats in minutes. Their zone deals are a complete game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25 tomorrow night. You can get tickets just about on the blue line in San Jose, lower bowl on Game Time for $80 each. What a deal. Yeah. If you're out here and you're a Devils fan, I think you'd be silly not to take that offer, and you can find that offer on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Welcome back here, Locked On NHL, or should I say Locked On New Jersey Devils? Yeah. You should also listen to Locked On NHL. Great podcast to do a nightly wrap-up. Yesterday was Frozen Frenzy. You're going to have plenty to talk about for sure. Of course, you go from Frozen Frenzy, 16 games, all 32 teams in action, to only one game tonight, Toronto and Columbus. But we're here to talk about last night's affair in Denver. The Devils lost by the score of 8-4. Now, it started off ominously because immediately out of the gate, puck winds up on the stick of Jacob Markstrom, and what does he do? He yeets it over the boards, 18 seconds in, 2 minutes for delay of game. And immediately you're just, that is as bad of an omen as I've ever seen to start a hockey game. I wanted to yell on the plane. I was like, oh no, why would you do that? Oh my gosh. And yeah, almost instantly, 1 minute, 24 seconds into the game on the power play, Marty Necas gets time and space, and one of the most dangerous one-timers in the league. Did not miss that one. I'm going to criticize Jacob Markstrom pretty heavily on some of the goals he gave up in this game. That was not one of them, but he did make it 1-0 Colorado for Mr. Necas. That was his 7th of the year. Oh boy, let's get over with it. Zakhar Bardakov, the center prospect that the Devils traded away for Curtis McDermott when Tom Fitzgerald was traumatized by Matt Rempe going on a rampage. One of the biggest mistake trades, if not the biggest mistake trade of Tom Fitzgerald's tenure as New Jersey Devils GM. I'm sure he instantly regretted it the second he hung up the phone. And Bardakov, who the Devils could use right now, considering they're playing Juho Lammikko and Luke Glendening as their 3 and 4 Cs. Of course he was going to score his first NHL goal against the Devils. Why wouldn't he? Of course he would. And it was a beauty, too. Bardakov on the rush, snaps it past Jacob Markstrom on a partial breakaway, had a 6 celebration, 2-0 Avalanche. That would be the score after 1. And then the floodgates would open to start the second. 3-0 Colorado. Victor Olofsson, his first as a Colorado Avalanche. I would have loved Victor Olofsson on the Devils. I was calling for the Devils to sign him. They didn't, and I'm sure they could use him. Olofsson beats Markstrom on the rush. Are you catching on to a trend here? Then 4-0 on the power play. Nathan McKinnon, his first of what would be 2 goals tonight from Cale Makar and Victor Olofsson. This was a rocket, but Markstrom was in position, and it just went through him. He was in position, tied to the far post, and it just went through him. That can't happen. 4-0 Avalanche immediately after, less than a minute and a half after. Parker Kelly scores his second goal of the year on a breakaway. You're catching a trend. Nice backhand. Beats Jacob Markstrom. It is 5-0. And at this point, if you would turn the game off, I don't blame you. But you missed a lot of fun because over the next 5 minutes, you can't just not have hope, right? Stefan Nason scores. The Chris Paul cuts the lead down to 42 goal. Nice to see him get on the board. And don't ever think that goal does not mean something. It's great that we saw the Devils fight last night after going down 5. You never want to go down 5, but it was nice to see them not fold. Nason, his first of the year. Cotter, his first assist of the year to set that up. Not soon after, Dougie Hamilton makes it 5-2. And now you're going, okay, maybe. At least they're not giving up. was a rough rebound from Scott Wedgwood, who up until this point was just basically God. Scott Wedgwood still has a perfect record against the New Jersey Devils, but this was his first bad game against the Devils. I guess you could call it as such. He gave up 4 goals, but up until this point, the Devils had 16 shots in the first period and did not get anything home because Wedgwood was playing out of his mind, as you would expect. But yeah, Dougie makes it 5-2, and I said to myself, okay, if they score the next goal, then you start to get to, sit up in your chair a little bit. And they did. Dawson Mercer, let the big dog eat, makes it 5-3 on the rush from Nico Hischier and Timo Meier. And right after that, some mile-high peanut butter and jelly, Jack Hughes, people pay to see me play on just a gorgeous give and go between him and Jesper Bratt. 4 goals in 5 minutes from the Devils, who were dead. And all of a sudden now it's a 1-goal game. And now you're thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute. What if we pull this off? And yes, this is where the positives come in, because it is so good to see the Devils fight like this in a game that it's only game 10 of the year. You're down 5. You're in the altitude, and the Devils came back and made it interesting for just a little bit. But all good things must come to an end, and alas, right before the end of the period, Timo Meier takes a really dumb penalty, like probably the dumbest penalty I've seen any Devil take all season, and it was a tripping call because he tripped Zakhar Bardakov. Of course he did. And the last team you want to give a power play opportunity to, Colorado. And McKinnon scores again from Makar and Olofsson. This was just an absolute missile, 6-4. Colorado goes back on the power play to start the third period. Olofsson scores again, make it 7-4. This one I would say should have been stopped. It was not. And then throw the hats, Victor Olofsson. First career hat trick. Makes it 8-4. That would be the final. You look at hockey stat cards. Great games from Dougie Hamilton, Luke Hughes, Dawson Mercer. Jack had a pretty solid game. I think the stat cards are a little bit misleading. I actually thought Stefan Nason and not Brendan Dillon. Stefan Nason, Simone Nemec both had excellent games, but the stat cards don't necessarily disagree. At the bottom of the stat card, Seamus Casey was just rough last night. So that be how the cookie crumbles. But I am a little bit encouraged that in a game that felt like a scheduled loss, the Devils went down 5-0. Were able to battle back, make it 5-4 in the blink of an eye, and then ended up losing. So don't freak out. Like, I will be the first person to tell you if I am concerned about the state of the New Jersey Devils. And yes, I have concerns. I'll talk about them after the break just to wrap things up. But they are 8-2 through 10 games. Everybody, in through the nose, out through the mouth. I am not concerned. I have to see them lose the rest of the California trip before I become concerned. And considering the state of the California teams, I would be shocked if they did. I also wouldn't be shocked because deep down, I'm a little bit of a natural pessimist. So there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I could see them doing that. The California trip sank the Devils season last year. 2 years ago, it was the stretch that got Lindy Ruff fired. So I understand where a little bit of the hesitation may come from. But at least for now, everybody take a deep breath. But at the same time, San Jose is not going to be an easy out. They were not an easy game on Friday night. And last night, they got winometered and then some. How badly, you might ask? Well, they lost to the Sharks, or I know the Sharks do lose to the Sharks quite often, but they lost to the Kings, not the Sharks, the Kings, despite outshooting LA 40-17. It was that kind of night. But that's a preview for tomorrow. I'm going to take a quick break. When we return, we're just going to wrap some things up, talk a little bit more about Jacob Markstrom's performance in net, and then we'll call it for a show because I got to go hike Big Sur. This is my first time out here. It is beautiful. Like, I have not spent time in California in a couple of years. I get it. Like, I immediately get it. If everything wasn't so expensive, I'd never leave. But yeah, we'll talk more about just a couple housekeeping things next on Locked On Devils. Back here on Locked On Devils, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, so we'll just get on with it. Yes, they lost 8-4 last night. Big reason why, Jacob Markstrom. I'll give you the numbers. They're not pretty. Colorado had 4 goals in the power play last night. And yeah, that's a little bit concerning because Brett Pesce, the key power play killing, or penalty killing, should I say, defenseman for the Devils, going to be out for a while. Yeah, the Devils gave up 4 power play goals last night. Going into the San Jose game on Friday, they had at one point killed off 21 consecutive penalties, one of the better penalty killing units in the league when fully healthy. Right now, they are not. So we'll see how big of an impact that is going forward. Colorado, 4 power play goals, but they also only generated 0.56 expected goals on their respective power plays. So not great. Really not great. To make things even more not great to point out, Jacob Markstrom, for the first time ever allowed 8 goals in his career. And the goalie, this particular goalie performance, he allowed negative 3.8 goals saved above expected. Good gosh, man. That was, I want to say, maybe the worst performance by a Devils goalie since Andrew Hammond gave up 4 goals in the third period against Florida back in 2022 in a game I was at and lost a hat on Yegor Sharangovic's hat trick. That game should have gotten Lindy Ruff fired. I still believe that. But that's neither here nor there. Jake Allen is going to most likely be the starting goalie going forth. I do wonder if this is still a case with Jacob Markstrom going forward. Give him maybe another game or two. Do they send him down for a conditioning stint? Call it as if it were still an injury. He's still, of course, coming back from an injury. And maybe bring Nico Daws back up because the one game we saw Nico Daws play, yes, it's a small sample size, looked very good. Maybe flat out stole the game against the Minnesota Wild last week. So that will do it just about for this episode of Locked On Devils. Tomorrow, we will be back here in Santa Cruz previewing the final game of this season series between the New Jersey Devils and Macklin Celebrini and the San Jose Sharks. But y'all have a wonderful day. I don't know what the weather's like back home, but stay classy, Brick City.